is one of the things we get to do at the Teaching of the Antichrist, and that's how we do it. Our inspirational reading this morning comes from the Daily Word, which is a publication through Unity Prayer Ministry. For Sunday, December 6, 2021, my inner light grows brighter through faith. Pulling back a curtain in a dark room will drive the darkness out and flood the space with light. I remember this at those times when my life feels dark. I have the power to live from faith, which brings me out of spiritual darkness. Faith helps me believe that, even when I can't see it, the light of God is always shining. Little by little, my awareness of God grows increasingly brighter until I perceive the divine everywhere. I am a spiritual being, inseparable from God. I place my faith in this truth and drive out the darkness of fear and doubt that may have caused me to shrink from the fullness of life. Shining my light in the world, I inspire those around me to grow brighter with faith. And with that is a passage from the Holy Bible, from the book of John, chapter 12, verse 46. I have come as the light of the world, so that everyone who believes in me should not remain in the darkness. Our speaker today is a very busy lady sharing the Christ light with outreach ministry, with International Center. She also shepherds the extension groups that are outside of International Center in El Cajon, California, for the teaching of the inner Christ. And this woman knows how to claim miracles. She knows how to pray, and she knows how to face a challenge and to accept the miracles and the great good that God has for her and for others. Speaking on claiming miracles in challenges, please welcome our own Reverend Marianne Kelley.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone this morning? Having sugar overload?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes, there's a sugar overload. Well, claiming miracles in challenges. Yeah, what we need is a little bit more stuff up here. Oh boy. Well, you remember the story about Joseph, the coat of many colors. You remember about that story. Well, he was his father's favorite because he was the youngest and he was born in his of his older age. So he had raised all of the other sons, and now he was and daughters, and now here was the apple of his eye. And he gave him this coat of many colors. And his brothers looked at that and said, "Ooh, how come I never got a coat of many colors?" And they were all jealous of him. And so they plotted against him. And they grabbed him one day and they threw him in a pit. And they took his coat of many colors and they sprinkled some blood on it and took it to his dad and said, "We think a fox got him or a wolf got him." And his father just went into mourning and all of that. Well, they got to feeling a little bit guilty about that, so they pulled him out of the pit and they sold him to a caravan that was traveling through. And they took him to Egypt, where he was sold into slavery. But, you know, he was an industrious young man, and he was pretty smart about things, and he soon worked his way out of that, and was working for one of the local people who was high up in the government, and he helped him prosper and all of those things. But he had a wife, this person, who looked at Joseph, and she thought he was mighty fine. She thought he was mighty fine, and she thought, well, maybe he would like to come and visit me. And so she invited him to come, and then she threw herself at him, and he pushed her away and says, "You're a married woman, and you're my boss's wife, and I don't want to have anything to do with that." And she grabbed his coat, and he ran out, and she had his coat. So she said, he will not reject me. So she told her husband that he had tried to, you know, have his way with her. And so Joseph got thrown in jail. So, you know, he had many challenges in his life. First of all, he was sold into slavery, and then he worked his way out of that. Then he was thrown into jail, and he was there for a long time. And the Pharaoh of Egypt had a problem with dreams. And none of his people could figure out what those dreams meant. All of those people, you know, that they have, they just couldn't figure it out. Well, Joseph was able to interpret dreams for the people in the prison and the guards and things like that. So they told that to the Pharaoh, and so he brought him in, and he was able to interpret those dreams. And what he found was that there would be some 7 years of plenty and 7 years of drought and all of those things. And anyway, he was able to. They were able to store up and be ready for when the famine came. So they were really happy about that. So you see all of these things, miracles after miracles out of troubles. Well, in the meantime, when the famine came, it also took care of the people back home where Joseph was from, and his family, his father and his brothers, were all a part of that. And his father sent his brothers to Egypt to see if they could get some help. And so they came, and they didn't recognize Joseph because he was older, and he was dressed as an Egyptian, so they didn't recognize him. Well, anyway, so he told them to go ahead and come, and they would take care of him, and, you know, and all of that stuff. Anyway, so they came to Egypt, and he gave them all of the wheat and things that they needed to take care of themselves, but he hid some things in the caravan, and so what happened then was he as they were traveling along, he sent his soldiers after them, and he accused them of thievery. And they said, "Bring your youngest son, bring the younger son, to your father's younger son, and then bring your father to me, and I will give you back your father's son." So they went and they got his father, and he brought him, and then he revealed himself, who he was. He was their brother. And the Pharaoh was so impressed by all of this stuff that was going on that he allowed them to have the land of Goshen, which was all that beautiful, wonderful. It was the best land. And so they were well taken care of after that. But came a time when Jacob it was his time to go. And so the brothers were now concerned, because they knew as long as their father was alive that they were safe. But when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph holds a grudge against us?" You could see how that could happen. "And pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him." So they sent word to Joseph saying, "Your father left these instructions before he died, that you are to say to Joseph, 'I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now please forgive the sins of thy servant, of the God of your father.'" When they sent this message to Joseph, he was so touched, he wept. And his brothers came after they sent the message. Then they came and they threw themselves on the ground and before him, and they said, "We are your slaves." And what did Joseph say in return? He said, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended harm to me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done and saving many, many lives. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. And he reassured them, and he spoke kindly to them. So you see, throughout his life, Joseph had all of these challenges, but he overcame each one and became more and more powerful, more and more wealthy. And whenever we feel, have you ever felt in any situation, maybe you were having a problem with a situation or with maybe a person in your life who maybe didn't quite agree with you? And yet, if you could find it in your heart to show kindness to that person or to that situation, or to go in prayer into the Rukat treatment, which is a form of prayer that we do here at the Teaching of the Inner Christ, that really manifests very beautifully. We recognize God is all there is. We unify with God. We make a claim, and we accept God's goodness in this claim. And then we give thanks, and we call that a Rukat treatment. That's it in a nutshell. But that's the way we can surpass any seeming challenge with a person or a place or a circumstance that's going on, and bring it all together. And when we do this, we release it. We let go, we let God within us do the rest. And so, I'd like to draw our attention to some time in our past when we may have met a challenge, and it just seemed so unsurmountable. And yet down the road a ways, we look back at that situation and we say, wow, if that had not happened just as it did, I would not be where I am today, which is a mighty fine place. I'm so happy with today. And as I was writing this talk last night, I was thinking, what example can I give? And I couldn't come to an example, but all of a sudden, I was just filled with a great love. And the realization is the position that I am in life right now, it's just marvelous. Anything that's gone on before is before. And it's brought me to here today, which is a wonderful place, the most wonderful place. So, I did find something in the beautiful book called Love Answers All. And these are channeled messages from the Brotherhood of the Followers of the Present Jesus. They're from Jesus. And he says to us, give over now to the Spirit within you. The Spirit is universal Spirit. The Spirit within you is one with the Spirit in every other person. So in giving over to Spirit, you are giving over to each other. You are one with Spirit and you are one with each other. So feel that oneness. Feel that wonder. Feel the love. And allow the love to fill your being. Just fill your being. That's what I felt last night. Let time be the essence of building your trust in yourself, your faith in God, and your love in your fellow human beings. God's love is in your hands. You have but to learn how to use it. Learn the ways to direct God's power so that it may do some good. Do the most good. Love is your instrument that directs God's power. Got that? For it is through the love of God's power that we reflect the perfection of God's will. Each has the knowledge to achieve God's perfection, and it's all right here within us. What is a miracle? A miracle is God's natural occurrence. Did you know that? You do not need to look outside of yourself to have a miracle, because the miracle is within. Think of a miracle that the human being is. Have you considered how wonderful it is that God lives through you? God lives through us. Have you ever considered what a wonderful arrangement there is in our body, in our physical body, that you never have to think about breathing when you sleep? Think about that. And all you do is cease to function, and all the processes function automatically and perfectly within the body. You don't have to think about it. You can call that a miracle. You can call a miracle that we were born. Do you know how many odds there are against that sperm and that egg coming together? It's just tremendous, but it happens. Rejoice in the miracle that lives within you. And when you pray for a healing or wholeness, you receive your answers. And do not consider it a miracle, because it is just God's natural occurrence. Isn't that marvelous? Mm-hmm. So open your hearts to all of the light and the energy I pour through you and pour into the others on the earth. And that's what's coming right now. As you go through your day, be aware that those around you who are feeling this spiritual vibration, there are those around you who feel it. Take the time to communicate it with them. Take the time to love them, and you will accomplish, and your time will be compensated. You act as my channel to spread love energy. Be aware, be patient, and be open to those who come to you. Wow. That's the promise of Jesus right now. And there's another thing you can remember to do. I found this little sign on that very page. Breathe. Take in a breath. And breathe. Breathe. So, what do we do now?
Breathe.
We accept life as a miracle, keep breathing, and keep living every day, and remember that we don't believe it when we see it, but rather we see it the moment we can believe it. Okay? So, believe all is possible. Thank you, wonderful God, for all these beautiful people who are listening to this. So it is, and so I accept it to be right now. Amen. Thank you, God. All yours. Okay, my dear.
Thank you, Reverend Marianne Kelley, for such an inspiring talk, and so much light for us today. Very nice, thank you.